happening around us today really asks the question, begs the question, what have we been doing? If the verdict of somebody being found guilty of rape gets 37 innocent people to die, I think it's a question for us to say, which schools did these people go to? What kind of education did they have? If the fact that I'm stopping this is a personal story, I'm stopping at a traffic light and I'm waiting because it is red. A young fellow comes behind me and says, "Auntie, aap pagal ho kya?" So I ask him, "Why?" He says, "There's nobody here, why are you waiting?" Yeah? I wonder, I look at him totally shocked, unable to drive even when it is green, because something as an educator snaps. What have we taught this kid that he's actually he's asking this question to me? We do interviews for students who come, who have gotten really good grades in whatever they have, and we're selecting them to come into the institute. There was this one particular student who I remember, topper in CBSE, 5th ranker in IIT JEE, topper in these IIT that he studied in the discipline that he studied in. So obviously, really smart kid. He's sitting and I'm asking, and what can I ask this kid? He's smarter than I am. I have never talked like that. I've never even cracked a JEE. So I asked him very innocently, wanting to have a conversation with him, because this is my opportunity to talk to a really bright kid. I'm asking him, I just asked him, so what social problem do you think of? What bothers you about India? What bothers you about society? And he looks at me as if I'm speaking in Greek. And he really stares at me. And I'm like, oh, should I repeat the question? Did I not make myself clear? And keeps looking at me, staring at me. And then he says, honestly, I have no such problem. I don't think of any such problems. And I say, no, I refuse to believe this. You cannot not think of a problem. I just can't take that as an answer. He says, well, I'm really concerned about the status of educated, I'm copying him, not very good, but this is how he spoke. I'm really concerned about the status of educated Tamil Brahmin women. I said, your mother? And he said, yeah. And really, it pains that this kid who's so bright, no school, no parent, no social structure has got him to think of anything beyond grades, beyond achieving a top rank. And what kind of a citizen do you think he will make? What kind of a citizen do you think he will, what kind of a manager will he make? I have no clue whether he actually made it or he didn't make it. I never saw him in my class. Maybe he did. I didn't teach that class, thank God. But the fact is, there was, one is left asking that question. And of course, then these questions become even more relevant. Do schools matter? What are we doing? What are we doing? I can often wash off my hands and saying, I only get them when they are 22. I have students who are toppers in wherever they have come from, and they still believe that they're not worth anything. They still don't have any self-confidence and any self-worth. And I compare this with a 12-year-old boy who I went to when my car the AC wasn't working. I went to the dealership and they said it will cost you 79,000 rupees to fix it. And I go to this, small workshop, and this 12-year boy fixes it for me
for as little as 3,000 rupees. I think he has more confidence. Yeah. So again, I'm not saying schools are good or not bad, but I think what is interesting is that at some point we have forgotten what is this education for. Yeah. And in that context, I simply want to say, and I want to read out something that I guess you would all agree with me that the goal of education has always been to help students become smart. Yeah, whoever comes into my class should become smarter, and I guess to help students become good. Yeah, and my contention is that character is needed for both. Today I think we have a lot of good students and we have a lot of bright individuals, but I think somewhere we are kind of missing on this particular word character. When I was growing up, my father often used to say, if wealth is lost, nothing is lost. If health is lost, something is lost. If character is lost, everything is lost. I didn't understand the meaning of character at that time, I guess the only thing as a teenager or like a 17, 18, 19, 20-year-old girl, character was possibly virginity. Yeah, I mean, that's all you possibly thought about. That's all I could make sense of. But I think as I've grown, as I've thought and I've understood, I think character is a lot of things. And when character is missing, I think we miss a lot, and we see the symptom of it in the society around us. I personally feel I can't function in the society today because I don't understand the kind of crassness sometimes the responses I see around me. Yeah. Yesterday I was in Shillong. We were in Cherrapunji, and there was this. We'd gone to see a fall, and at the fall, this person was with a little kid was saying, "Chalo chalo वापस चलते हैं." So we said, नहीं आगे जाइए. If you go a little further, actually the more beautiful part is there. So just go. Just said it because felt that they would miss it. And then we met at another fall, the Seven Sisters fall, and these people were there. This guy looks at us and says, "Auntie, thank you." I said, "Why?" He said, you recommended us to go further. It's a courtesy that I have forgotten in all these years. Nobody says thank you to anybody for anything. Yeah, it was an absolute stranger, warmed my heart, because here was somebody who just remembered. It wasn't big. I don't think it mattered, but the fact is that he said thank you, he acknowledged me as a being, I acknowledged him as a being. That is what mattered in that entire thing. So my point is that actually there is research to show, there is one particular journal called Journal of Research in Character Education, which actually shows that people who have better character education actually also perform better. There is research to show that. There is meta-analysis that has been performed. It's a 2003 paper. And I was very happy to see that paper because in fact they are saying character matters. Yeah. Now the question is, what is character? Yeah, I think the point, and it's if we make it really esoteric, it becomes very difficult to understand. So the point I want to say is that there are two characters that often are talked about, and I'm not saying it out of the top of my head. There's some research around it. There is performance character and there is moral character. Okay, and performance character will include things like continuous improvement. Yeah, it will include things like work ethic. Yeah, I was saying this to Ravi, and apologies to you again, but we have our students who put up these really expensive programs or festivals, a student festival, and sometimes they call it an intellectual festival, and sometimes they call it a cultural festival. No matter what festival they create, it is amazing that you have students who are studying to be managers and who are possibly the top management school students. They don't start on time. Yeah, they never apologize when they don't start on time. They, when they have their functions, they forget that there is a law of the land. After 11 o'clock, you can't have the mic blaring. Just because it's a student function, it doesn't mean you can have rock music playing around 1 o'clock at a decibel level, which possibly will get somebody up from the grave. And then they will litter the campus in the morning. So when you get up in the morning and you go for a morning walk, it's impossible to go for a walk which is littered. To me, there is something that we are missing as educators. Yeah, these students should have behaved better. They should have learned to work better. The ethic should have been better. So work ethic becomes part of the performance character. Self-confidence becomes a part of performance character. I think determination to do something and keep doing it, and not give up because I failed once or twice or thrice becomes performance character. On the other hand, moral character is respect, responsibility to others. I have often felt that, we have made some very nice schemas about ourselves. When I studied in Canada and I would meet people, I would say, well, we Indians we take very good care of our family. Yeah, parents matter for us, elders matter for us, and the kind of stories you hear today of how children treat their elders, I think it's just a story, it's no more a reality, and we continue to live in that myth that we have love and compassion and humility and integrity and so on and so forth. And these are all what our moral character is, that I stand on my word, I stand for justice, I have the moral courage to say what I do. So basically what I'm saying is, as a performance character, it is to do our best work. It need not be that of Michelangelo, it might not be that of the topper of the JEE, but whatever I do, can I do it best? Yeah? I think the women who made this sari, the kantha work, have performance character. Yeah? You will not see a missing stitch, you will not see something that is not there. They're not educated, I don't think they get even paid a lot to do this. But they have performance character because they recognize that somebody is going to wear it. I don't know what motivates them, but they just make it so beautiful. Yeah? That is doing our best work, is performance character. In fact, I think Martin Luther King said sometime that even if you're called to be a street sweeper, could you sweep the streets even as Michelangelo painted or Beethoven composed music? Yeah? It doesn't matter what you are doing, but can you do it with that level of finesse, no matter what? That is performance character. Okay? I think performance is an outcome, but performance character is really our wish to pursue our personal best, no matter what, where, why. And if we can teach that, if we can have that inculcated in a school, I think it can never be taken away. It doesn't matter which job, doesn't matter what becomes irrelevant. I do my best because I'm doing it. That's performance character. Yeah? And that's the whole point that I'm saying. Similarly, moral character is where I honor the interests of others so that I do not violate mine and others' dignity. Yeah? In today's day and age, I won't say this for all countries, but in India, every time you go out, your dignity is definitely going to be violated. And I think there is something that is happening which is too scary, and I think we all need to start paying attention to it. And I think we as school teachers, as school leaders or educators definitely have to look at it. Yeah? What are we doing that the students of today or the youth, the young adult of today, don't give two hoots about the fact that there is another person standing next to them? You don't exist for them. Yeah? How can it be possible? How can that be at all possible? And so that becomes a question for us to think about. I will stop after I say this, and I will continue this conversation as we go along. I think what I'm saying is a person of character actually embodies both performance and moral character. And when I have one, let's say I have performance character, I could become this really amazing terrorist. Yeah, correct? Because I have no moral character. Yeah, I'm this really amazing killer, but I'm a terrorist because I didn't have moral character. Nobody told me what is right, what is wrong. I haven't asked that question for myself. On the other hand, if I have huge moral character and no performance character, I can say all the good things, but I will do nothing. Yeah, I need both. I need people to do, and I need people to ask questions of whether what they are doing is right or wrong, whether it makes sense or not. So I think that is what I'm trying to say, is that a person of character has both moral and performance character. I think Professor, I can't remember his name, whose student was Oppenheimer, right? He was the nuclear scientist. People asked him, you must be very happy because your students have done so well. He said, I think I taught them to be very good physicists, but I don't think I taught them to be very good human beings, because they are the ones who created the atom bomb. Yeah, and he went with this sadness. I think each one of us needs to say, are we going to be sad at the end of our life? What have we taught and what have we done?
Pankaj really tricked me into this evening. I was supposed to be one of the participants, but then he put me on the stage somehow. So I am thankful to him. But I didn't know that he was looking for a personal answer through all these gimmicks of a seminar. Because even after the first session, he said, they have not answered my question, why should we go to school? He didn't feel the need to go to school as an adolescent, and still he is without answer. So I don't know whether at the end of the day, he will feel frustrated that he didn't get the answer for his question. Madam started with a quotation. Somebody sent me immediately, somebody sent me a WhatsApp message. Incredible India. When a rape accused is not arrested, we burn candles and march. When a rape accused is arrested, we burn the city. I think that's a tragedy of what has happened in Haryana. And we still don't have answers. Politicians are still wrangling among themselves, which is a better party, who has done better and who did not do well. All those are going on, but so many lives have lost. 36 lives, I think, gone, 37. And yet the Chief Minister said, "Kuch nuksan hua hai, kuch nuksan hua hai." Make up karega. How do you make up 37 lives? How do you make up everything? So I think it's a very important thing that we have to ask ourselves. These are the end products of all the schools that have produced all these people. And the topic that I am going to talk about, already Professor Shukla touched upon it, the school climate. I believe the school climate has got much to do. When we ask, does schools matter? Professor also mentioned some type of schools don't matter. No matter whatever we are doing, it doesn't matter to some people, definitely, because schools don't respond to what we need. And I think that's very, very important to realize that a school, in order to render the services for which it has been established, it must have a culture. It must have an environment where this thing takes place. We know the end result of a school is supposed to be intellectual formation, aesthetic formation, socio-political formation, and spiritual formation, of which just now we heard. So I think all these aspects have to be taken care of in a school situation. So we need to see all these dimensions, whether these are catered to in our schools, whether we develop the person intellectually, whether we produce aesthetically wonderful people. Aesthetics also means lots of things in that. And socio-politically, are we creating them to be better citizens of tomorrow? And finally, as a spiritual aspiration, are we really giving that dimension also proper emphasis in our schools? So what do I mean by a good, well-educated student?
I would call the end result should be, we want to mold a contented, a happy person. First of all, a contented person, contented with himself or herself, contented with the society, contented with everything. That is a happy person. I think that should be the end result. I think our neighbor, little country called Bhutan, he has given a new definition of GDP, happiness quotient. Happiness quotient is very important in the human nature. So, are we keeping our happiness as an end product of our educational system? So, compassionate. We are speaking about compassionate human beings. To be able to understand, sympathize, and to feel with the others and all that. Compassionate. And contributing to society, contributing to the family, contributing to others. And committed to serve society. So in other words, these are some of the end product of a school system that we expect a school system should produce: a contented, compassionate, and contributing, committed individual for our future society. School culture, what does it depend on? School culture depends on norms, values, beliefs, rituals, ceremonies, symbols, and stories that make up the persona of the school. Every school has got a persona. I think you go from school to school, you will find different persona in every school. One of the ways when I educated myself is whenever I go to a town or a city, I always ask which are the leading schools. I'll just go there. I don't ask any questions. I simply observe the school. Sit down there and just watch. What's the environment in that school? What's the culture in that school? What is the way that the educational process is carried forward? It has been much better education for me than many of the seminars that I have attended. So I think school climate or culture is very important to make a school relevant. Now, school climate can be, what I would say, some schools have got toxic climate. Toxic climate. Others will have positive climate. What do I mean by toxic climate? Toxic, you know what toxic is. It injures us. Toxic environment. And what are these? Blames the child for everything. A blaming atmosphere. You know very well what happens, you know. Let's say at home we have a problem. The teacher has got a problem at home, comes back and gives the problem to the children or the headmaster or headmistress. We carry on passing the buck. And so it can be a blaming situation. The climate is a climate of pointing the fingers all the time. So it cannot be a positive climate. It's a toxic climate. Discourages collaboration. There is competition, cutthroat competition. I want little more mark than that fellow. Half a mark more is enough. Parents are competing, children are competing, everybody is competing. I had once one situation where the driver was very happy, the driver of a particular person, because his son did better than his boss's son. So they are competing. The two are competing. They are competing, and the driver was putting up his collar and walking around because his son has done very well. So you see, so much of competition. Instead of, I think it was mentioned, this 21st century skill is, what is the skill needed? Collaboration and teamwork. How do we generate collaboration and teamwork in a school that is filled with competition? I remember when I came to Don Bosco in 2000, first thing that I took away was ranking. No rank in the school. Instead, only all those who got, let's say, 90% and above, all will be awarded. There is no first, second and third. Some parents were very unhappy because their children, they could not say, I am the first. They could not say, I am the second. They could not say, I am the third. And so one day, for example, one parent came to me. Her son had done very well. previous test he had got 80%. This time he had got 85%, but he was second in the class. Before he got 80%, he was first in the class. She is unhappy. I said, madam, your son has done much better. He has got 85% this time. Nothing doing. They are not happy because we are living in a competitive world. Cutthroat competition. A climate of competition is necessary maybe sometimes, but it is injurious to young children, especially very small young children. It is very injurious to them to have this competition. Then breeds, there is this kind of this kind of climate. There is lot of competition among teachers also. Teachers are competing against each other. They are competing at each other. They are disparaging another. Oh, that she doesn't know social studies. He doesn't know maths. He doesn't know this. He doesn't know that. This competition also goes down to the classroom, and the children know it already. As somebody already mentioned here, teachers know each other. Who is the teacher? Who likes this and that teacher and things like that. There is a lot of competition going on among teachers. Then school remains just giving information. Information is not knowledge, and knowledge is not wisdom. We need to percolate from information to knowledge, from knowledge to wisdom. That's a long process, but most of us only engaged in giving information. Information is not needed anymore. We have got the internet, we have a computer, we can get all that information on our fingertips. So we don't need school for information. Information giving is not necessary anymore because all that is available to the children, and sometimes children are more informed than the teacher himself or herself. So I think it's not needed at all. Then this negative type of schools, they demand conformity and uniformity. It has been researched and it has been found out that KG children, measured on creativity, they have got, let's say, 80%. They are 80%, they are creative. By the time they finish class 6, already they have come down 50%, or they have gone to class 10, they have no more creativity. That means school kills creativity because we are only looking for conformity, we are looking for uniformity. So I think it's very, very important that if you want to change the climate of the school, we cannot look for conformity, we cannot look for uniformity. We may have a uniform. A uniform is meant to make everybody looking alike, and there will be no competition in all the best dresses and all that. So it may be good, but we should not reduce schools to just produce uniformity and conformity. Then positive climate. What would I mean by positive climate? Positive climate celebrates success. Success of every child. Success even in little things. And it celebrates individuality and difference. And I think that's very, very important now, especially with the multiple intelligence, understanding of our intelligence, not just IQ only. So many ways children are endowed. So many ways children are gifted. We need to identify those individual gifts that the children have and give them the possibility of reaching the highest in that area. They may be good for football. Give them football. Give them basketball. Give them football. Give them maybe, some may be good for maths, some may be good for music, some may be good for dramatics. The school need to nurture talent. We need to approach the child from his or her strengths. Not just, if you ask, let's say, fish to climb trees, they will forever be a failure. But if you ask them to swim in the water, they will definitely be much better than anything else. So you cannot ask for the wrong things for the children. If they are not endowed for one thing, we should not insist that they have to all pass the same way. Somebody has mentioned maybe, mathematics. Some are not doing mathematics after class 10. I think today in the specialized era, we need not pursue all the subjects. Is not absolutely necessary for a human being today. So we need to identify what's the best for that child and give that child that ambience to grow. Now, a good environment produces profound learning. Not just this ordinary superficial learning. Profound learning means the child goes beyond this little information technology, information, just collecting information. It needs to be understanding, deeper understanding of the subject and assimilating knowledge at a deeper level. So these are the types of a climate that we need to introduce in a school if you want to create an environment that will make the children grow. Some people have called bad names for the schools. Some say this is a warehouse. School is a warehouse. Some others have said it's a factory. Some others have said it's a prison. Some others have said it's a professional service delivering some services to people. Now, what type of definition do we have for the school? A school will be defined by the climate we create in the school. If you create a climate that is positive, that encourages growth, that encourages children to obtain their maximum potential in the field that they have chosen, then I think we will still be relevant in spite of the many handicaps that we have mentioned. As already he has suggested, we are questioning everything today. We are questioning marriage, we are questioning family, we are questioning everything we are questioning, including schools also. But if the schools, as I mentioned, if it creates a positive environment, it will still be relevant and it will produce the character ethics that she was speaking about, our Professor Vora was speaking about, work character as well as moral character. And then we will find individuals. Schools are not meant for, preparing them for work. As I think that also we must take out of our minds, because in 20 years time or 10 years time, what can we guess for a work? What work will be there? There will be no work that we can prepare the child for. Earlier, British prepared us for clerk's job. The clerk's job was there carrying on and on and on, and that is why when Rajiv Gandhi introduced this computer education, there was such a hue and cry, especially from the left parties, because they thought entirely the country was going to have no employment at all. Now, if India got a name abroad, it is because of computer. When I was studying in the States, anybody getting any problem with the computer, they said, sir, can you just fix up this one? I said, India may be good for computer, but I am not one good for computer. See, but earlier than that, when I went to abroad, they always looked down, these Indians, what are these Indians for? Indians were looked down upon. Nowadays, we are held rather high, because we are in many fields, we have come up. So, I think it's very, very important we are not preparing them for employment. You teach them how to learn, they will learn for themselves. And today, knowledge must become lifelong learning. So this is a skill that we have to teach. You teach them how to learn, they will carry on learning. And they have to continue to learn, because they will be outdated by the time they go out of the school. All the knowledge that they are collected in the school will be irrelevant, because knowledge have doubled up in 2 years' time. So I think it is no point in preparing them for future. Prepare them for the present, let them enjoy the present, let them enjoy themselves. What I often say is, goal of education is to make a man or a woman fully alive.
Right.
Fully alive. As a whole person, not just here, I don't know, engineer or this one, that one. The whole person must be vibrant. I must live, and so be alive. So if you can create an environment in a school where children are fully alive. I know, for example, sometime in Don Bosco, When children get sick, they are still crying to come to school because they enjoyed school. And parents were finding it difficult to keep them in the house. So they were bringing them to school even with the fever on, and we'll keep them in the infirmary, but still they are happy, they are in the school. So I think that happy atmosphere must be there. Happiness is a quest that all of us look for. We are looking for happiness. Any one of us looking for sadness? Nobody. All are looking for happiness. So let our children enjoy school. Let our children, and I think just now they played the video here. What were those children doing? They are saying they are happy in the school. They want to come to school. They want not maybe for the classes. They want to enjoy the company of one another. They want to enjoy the company of the teachers. And the teachers also. There should be no gap between the children and the teachers. They should be available. They should be everywhere. They should enjoy the company of young people, young children. And many of the teachers really remain young because they are all the time mixing with the little children. So I think it's very, very important to make school a happy place. If children like to come to school, they will not drop out of school. They will learn something and they will make a happiness for themselves. Let them find happiness today, tomorrow they will find it elsewhere. Let them do what they are expected to do today well, they will do everything tomorrow also well. Thank you.
So I think, really amazing points, wonderful anecdotes as well. I think it was really great to hear both of you sharing your thoughts on the topic. And Father, you didn't look like you were not prepared at all. I think it's been something that you have been reflecting over for a long, long time. So it was, no, we don't want to prove you dishonest or something. We just want to say that it was really wonderful to hear your thoughts. What I would like to still do here is hear Professor Vora's maybe a couple of responses to what Father has said, or something that you want to add upon what he has already said, or anything that you could not cover in the first part of your opening remarks. We would love to hear that. So maybe let's start with that, like like 5-7 minutes on that.
This whole focus on happiness also worries me. In fact, life is full of everything. There is happiness, there is sadness, there is upsetness, there is jealousy, there is all of that. And when there is so much focus on being happy and creating happy spaces, are we in a way putting under the carpet some of the emotions that are also equally real? So my thought over the years is, and I might be wrong, and I possibly am, is that can I just be, rather than be happy or be sad or be upset or be perfect? Can I just be, and can I just experience the moment fully? And it's very difficult. Very difficult, because when I'm happy, I'm wondering, how can I be happy? When I'm sad, I'm wondering, how can I be sad? So there's always this whole thing. But I think my best moments are, and my best situations are, even among friends and family, where each one can be. They don't have to pose. They don't have to, get to a certain place. They can just be. And I wonder if we can create institutions like that. So it's a thought that I have in that sense. So just wanted to say that.
I didn't mean just, to be able to have nothing else. That is no sadness, no all other emotions. All emotions are there. But what I mentioned was contentment. In the true spirit of Buddha, Buddha said attachment is the greatest problem in the human race, when we are attached to. So detachment, attachment, contentment. Contentment is a state of mind. Whatever be, I accept. So the acceptance of the moment is happiness. So I am not craving for yesterday, I am not looking for tomorrow, I am enjoying the present moment. So this present moment is important. It may be sad. When suppose my dad dies, I will be sad. I cannot be going around laughing and all that. No, it is not that expected. nor we can be having so many emotions we can have, but it is the ability to accept to have that contentment with ourselves, you understand?
So, not a compulsion to answer right now, but one question that comes to my mind, and as a researcher I keep meeting some 100-150 schools per month and hearing all types of school principals and teachers what they have to say. While all of this sounds so appropriate for the current scenario, also what's going on, there is this one entire thing that parents pay to come to the schools, and they expect schools to deliver something that they can take home, they can talk about. So do you also think that the schools, to remain relevant, also have to engage in parental education, not just students' education? And how can schools do that?
She is passing the buck because she is in a higher institution, they don't deal much with the parents.
No, I have many stories to tell you.
So, I don't know, this is my personal experience. I used to meet parents group wise, not this general body meeting of parents. I used to meet parents group wise, that is all of KG children and their parents. Class 1 children or their parents. The children will not be there, only the parents. I used to spend a whole evening with the parents. That is, evening they will come around 6 o'clock because they are coming after office. So 6 o'clock. Till 9 o'clock we spend time together, conversing, talking, and all the teachers will be there that day. Teachers who are teaching that particular class will be also there. So they are also able to interact with the parents and children and parents and tell them what is happening in school, how they are happening and things like that. And parents also can ask questions and all that. And then at the end, I introduced, they did not know first when I introduced, potluck tea. The school will give tea and the parents will bring something to eat, so they will share among themselves. They spend some time together. Evening by 9 o'clock they will go back home. Now, during this time, I used to give them some inputs in psychology, how to treat the children, how to bring up the children and things and that. And many of the parents, they used to tell me, Father, this is very enlightening talks that you have given or you have provided for us because we don't know. And do you know that the world over, for everything we need license, isn't it? To drive a car you need license. To practice as a medical practitioner you need license. Everywhere you need license. There is one thing that is not need a license. That is for marriage. Any of you took a marriage license? Before getting married, did you go for a licensing? That I am fit to get married. I know all the skills of marriage. We never went. So very many times parents are groping with the problems that they have in hand. So they need some of these conversations. And I used to tell them, now you will be friends for the next 12 years. You have started from KG, you will be next 12 years together. So you will meet each other, your children are having similar problems, you are meeting similar problems, you can share among yourself. And this used to be a very fine evening, but it took a long time because it means 13 evenings for me. But it was pleasant because it was a moment of sharing with the parents, and parents also became very friendly, and we didn't have many more confrontations. There were no confrontations with parents because the parents were able to, and every time they are able to converse and take over and things like that. And so there was a climate again of friendliness. Who is the sender? The child is the sender, not the parents. The child is the sender. We are talking around the child so that they become. And in solutions schools, our schools, we say what we need to create an educative community that is composed of child, teacher, parent, management. So all four are involved in that educative community, and we create these communities so that we are able to exchange notes, we are able to say what's happening and share ideas together. So I think this is one way to educate the parents also, because very many times parents also need education to how to handle the child, especially when the children have reached class 10, 8, 9, 10, adolescent. That's the time children run away from parents. Parents also practically run away from children because they don't meet each other. They cannot understand each other. It's a kind of tug of war. Parents want to keep the children. They want to keep the children as they were when they were toddlers. It's very comfortable to have children like that. But adolescent children, when the mustache is out, and I don't know, girls what we say, but when the adolescent children, it's very difficult to handle them. So they question you, and they will rebel against you. They don't like to keep the thing. So I think it's very important that time to have somebody to guide the parents also. That it is only just a transitory moment. It is a war of independence. Children were kept under the parents. Now they are asking for independence. The parents don't want to give it independence. So there is this struggle, constant struggle going on. So they will need help also.
I think as long as we think of education as a market, there's a client, there's a service, there is a product, and so on and so forth. Your question is very valid. Yeah? But I think if we start thinking of, we are currently working, Kathan and our team is working with 1,000 Delhi school principals. These are the government schools. And the principals come to IMA and we ask them to introduce themselves. And very often their first statement is, I am so and so, this is my school, and my problem is that the parents of my children are this and this. Yeah, so either they're uneducated or they are slum dwellers or they're laborers or something like that. And then the next is that my next problem is that my children are very bad. Yeah, and I wonder, what's the point of, you knew when you took up this job that this is the population you're going to work with. And in fact, if today in any place a school is most relevant, I think it is in these places, because they have absolutely no access. Our children will anyway get educated, irrespective of whether there is something or not. They will get educated because we have enough at home, we have enough resources. But it is these children who, if they were to get educated, would be the best. So what I'm saying is, I think even before I start talking about parents, which I think is a very relevant thing, it's also so important that the principals and the teachers actually look at what they think of the person in front of them. Do they see them as worthless? Do they see them as a group to serve? Do they see, what is it that they see it as? And unless we are able to resolve that, my sense is we will continue to have these conversations. The other thing I often find is, again with school principals that we work, there is often this whole thing about if the child is not writing 10 pages, then the parent is thinking that we are not teaching. Yeah. Now I think it's actually an escape. I don't want to do the real work. Yeah, I don't want to actually look at what does it mean to educate and so on and so forth. And it's not a critique of all of you. I think we are all part of a system. But the fact is, before I blame, before I say it's your fault, I think we also need to look at how it is our fault. I think when I use this example many times. I used to live in Orissa for some time, for a long time, and there was a butcher community that lived right outside of Bhubaneswar, and this butcher community basically is the one that provides meat to the entire city, and most of the people are excellent butchers. They're fairly well off, but they're not educated. I guess you have to be uneducated to continue to do butcher work. If the moment you get educated, maybe you will never do it. So maybe that's even a requirement. Who knows? But it's a community. Yeah. So this boy, from a little boy, in class 4, goes to a school in a neighbor's in the community, and he comes home and he tells his father and his parents, "Ki teacher has said to an English medium school. So teacher has said, bring 20 rupees. Yeah. Father says, what is 20? He doesn't understand 20. He understands kudi. He understands kode tanka. So he doesn't understand 20 and he's saying, what are you saying? He says, teacher has said 20 rupees. He says, say how I understand it. He says, teacher has said, speak in English. Yeah. So the parent says, I don't want to send my child to school because this creates a communication barrier between me and my son. What is the use of an education where my son and I can't talk, and in fact my son looks down upon me because I can't understand him? The father has a valid point. Education shouldn't be doing that. Yeah, it should facilitate communication. It should not create barriers of communication. It should help us to look at each other in a better way and not look down or look up on each other. I think if education is doing that, then I don't know whether parents need education or we need education or we all need education.
Sure.
I don't know.
Sure.
Yeah?
Okay, great. Thank you. So I think one last question again, both of you, to just share your thoughts on. So one part is both of you talked so much about what the content of education looks like in a school, which is relevant, which matters, right? Now, on the other side, and there are so many principals in the audience here, hence I'm asking this question more specifically, because principals on one side play a role of deciding what the content is, but majority of the part they are also administrators, looking into increasing enrollments and teacher recruitments and number of other things which are also important parts of teachers' principal's job. So now when we have schools where the corporate office sends lesson plans to the teachers saying that, okay, stick to this as far as possible, don't go beyond this. Then we have this entire push on increasing enrollments, because running a school, a meaningful, good quality school, is an expensive affair these days. It's not something that can happen without costs involved in it. So then there is this entire financial aspect to it. Then on the administrative side, no matter how passionate a school principal is, and there is no offense to teachers, there are thousands of brilliant teachers here, but teachers are still going to come from teacher education institutes that we know where they stand. So where do we get good teachers to impart what the principal has really so thoughtfully thought about? So do we also need to look into some of the administrative reforms in terms of how the school as a unit functions beyond what is taught in the school? Is it something that about our this thing that the school has to scale up, the enrollments have to grow, the institution has to flourish? If you have one campus, you have to have 7 campuses. There is this entire push from the management and investors as well. So do you also think that sort of ecosystem also needs to change for the schools to matter and to deliver some of the wonderful thoughts that you talked about in terms of the content of education? For both of you, and again, if you have any experiences on this, we would love to hear.
My sense also is today these are choices that one needs to make. Yeah? Do I need the 7th campus? Do I need to grow to this size and all of that? I think businesses are also asking that question today. Can I continue to be? Can I continue to deliver what I want to deliver when I grow at the size that I am? If you think of organizations like Infosys, which have been a pride of our nation, currently don't make us very proud. Partly there can be many reasons for it, but if you really think of it, how do you create management capacity to go from 20,000 employees to 210,000 employees? Yeah, it's not a joke. It's not a joke. So I think everyone suffers when there is scale. So these are questions that you have to ask. There are no right answers for any of this. But can I create value for whoever is in my school, including teachers? As long as I keep asking that question, I think it is doable. So in one of the Delhi school principals that we met, have met some really excellent principals as well. So this one particular school, the day she entered the school, there was, the school is in a situation where no classes happen. It's in an area which is surrounded by mostly people who are either political, they're hired by the political parties to be the gunda, or they are criminals. So that's just to, sorry I'm using that word, but yeah, so the label is that. So all of that happens inside the school as well. So apparently no child, if a class is happening, there is no guarantee that it will happen, because one of the older children will come, hit the door, give galis to the teacher or to some children and walk off, or pick 2 children and say, you please come, and hit them or whatever. So anything could happen. And this is the school she inherits. Yeah, this is the school she inherits. I went there in summer this year, and it's been only 18 months that she has been in the school. I have not seen a more innovatively run school than that school. Yeah, I have seen many schools in the country and abroad, and I've seen many elite schools. You can take my word for it, but it's one of those schools where anything you think of has been done, starting from obviously cleaning up the school with no resources. It's just the way she is. There is a library that runs in between the staircases, because that is where children pass, and there is one girl student who's very excited about this library, so every break she becomes the librarian. So she stands there, and who's created the library? It is donated books from teachers and the principal and her friends and so on and so forth. And she said the first time she started it, teachers said, children will take these books, not one book will come back. And she has said not one book has yet been stolen. Yeah, because they've put the faith in the children, and there's a girl who runs it. The midday meal is served so beautifully. It's done with dignity. Yeah, it's clean. The teachers are not, dragging the vessels. There is a little trolley that has been made. I mean, commonsensical things, but somebody's applied their mind to it, and as soon as they have done it, it has changed the school. 18 months, the school is today one of the most innovative schools. From 80% truancy, the school has now not even 2% truancy. Yeah, from a place where parents would come and beat up teachers and students, today parents will stand at the gate asking, principal madam ko mil sakte hain kya? Yeah, because there has been it's not through danda, it is through respect, it is through trust, it is through doing the right things for the children. When she does the right things for the children, it makes a difference to the parents as well. It doesn't mean there isn't one parent who is errant, but the fact is, do I focus on that one, or do I focus on the 99? I think that is the choice I have, because there will be always that 1 or 2, and if I keep focusing on it, I think then we are putting our energies where it need not be put. So I think there are choices we can make, and there are definitely real choices that are possible. Thank you.
I also believe that there is a choice, and the choice is the philosophy. I have told you, the philosophy of the school or the culture. What is the culture that we are engendering in this particular school? So you need to make a decisive inventory of what you want to do, and then that means we have to do some things, we have to not to do it. So it is a matter of choice. So that choice must be involving all the staff also, the entire school community. What I mean, all the stakeholders, they must be involved in creating that the choices. So once the choice is made, then we can find possibilities. Because, for example, let's say we are living, let's say, in Assam. Now we have got English medium schools. Most of you are in English medium schools here. Now there is an accusation in society that these English medium schools do not give them cultural values, they are not inserted into the society, they are taking them away and giving them some kind of foreign look or thing. But that need not be. You can make a choice and make sure that the whole thing is inculturated within the society itself. For example, I'll just say one little example that we did. We said we will have Bihu festival in the school. 1 week, not 1 week, we have an entire workshop in the school. So children are taught all the various things connected with Bihu, even the beating the drums and singing and all kind of things. 1 month there is practically they are busy with preparing. And some will say, oh, academic atmosphere, where is academic? I have noticed one thing, when we do all these extracurricular activities, co-curricular activities, we are not distracting the children. We are only encouraging the children and creating an atmosphere. So I think it's very, very important to make our stand relevant. And for that we need to make choices. So when we do this, maybe something else we have to not to do it. That's a part of the risk. But I think it's very, very important. We can't do everything under the sun. We need to make relevant choices that we want to engage our students in.
I'll make one last point, and this is something that I think it's also just to say that how we acknowledge how difficult the work of a school principal and a teacher is. And that is that I think in every other head or a teaching, any other position, the people who join the enterprise have a choice. They can either be here or they can't be here. But school is one place where the most important stakeholder has no choice. Yeah, the child has no choice even to make the choice whether they want to come or not. Yeah, so this is, and therefore the responsibility on us becomes double-fold and triple-fold and multifold, because the fact remains that I am affecting the life of a person who did not even make a choice to be here. And that, I think, makes us, our shoulders more heavier, but that's what we're here for. That's it.
Thank you so much. I really want gentlemen over here to make their comments, and if there are other questions, please keep them ready. We will have about 10 minutes of open house after this. I think wonderful thoughts, both of you. Thank you so much. There is so much that we have taken from this session as just food for thought. I think we don't need dinner anymore, Pankaj. We have already had a lot of food here. I come from a small state called Goa. Everybody knows it. And forget the political affiliations of our chief minister, but one story, or just generally let's keep the politics aside, but one story he tells, and I really like that story. He comes from a small village called Parra in Goa, and that's why his surname is Parrikar. So in Parra village there was this old farmer who used to call all children around his farm. Basically was sand which is formed next to the riverbed, and he would grow watermelons there, and he would actually invite kids to eat the best of the watermelons. The only instruction was, you have to give the seeds back to me. He would not let them either break the seeds or throw away the seeds, and he would actually pick out the best of the watermelons. And after it continued for a few years, and when the Mr. Parrikar went back to his village, he found that the farmer was not there anymore, nor was the watermelon farm anymore. So he started asking, why is the watermelon farm not there anymore? So he realized that the old farmer died and his son took over. Now his son realized that actually best watermelons are distributed for free. How can this be possible? Economy, consider this. So he started selling the best watermelons and kept the smaller ones for kids to eat. Now eventually what happened is that the seeds were smaller, so watermelons went on becoming smaller and smaller and smaller, and his business one day stopped. Right? So it took watermelon has a generation of in one generation the seeds change. Right? So watermelon farm took 7 years to completely perish. If we continue doing this to education, I think we'll just have to wait for another 100 years for the society to perish. Right? So it's really, really important the kind of fruits we hand over, and do we keep the best to us and give worst to the kids in the name of economy, in the name of number of things, or we also try to give best to the kids so that our institutions grow. Because I think the best that we give and the quality will actually solve a lot of questions around enrollment numbers, what fees do we charge to the kids, because there are many schools which actually focus on 30 students. They have demand for them to open more branches, where there are many schools which already have 3,000 and want to build 7 campuses. do not have any, they have to run enrollment drives. So there are these things that we as administrators also have to think while we wear our administrators hat, that we still have to give that entire content and the value in education, which really is one of the takeaways that I am personally taking from this panel. So thank you so much for these very wonderful thoughts that you have shared. I am going to open the discussion now for some quick comments and thoughts. Panelists from the previous panel, Mr. Ravi, Professor Kathan and Mr. Hazarika, there is a question for you, so be ready to field some questions as well.
And from what I've understood, the element of love played a big part over there. That's a small town in Meghalaya. And many of our parents have not really, not seen proper schooling. And the children who come to us, they come and speak in the vernacular. That's Garo. And when we teach them in English, but when we do have to send some important message back home, it is discussed in class in English, and at the same time, it is also spoken in Garo. So the child goes back home, and he's encouraged. You communicate in English in school, and no matter how you may, go back home and speak in your mother tongue. That's what we do. So I was thinking, if the element of love is in the equation, everything is possible.
Totally with you.
It would have been a very happy moment had Mr. Das, who treated me as his younger brother, Mr. Kuladhar Das, been today there in such an enlightening and such a marvelous session, where we are questioning ourselves. We are all principals from different schools. We are questioning ourselves, do schools matter? I have passed 40 years of my life running a school from 5 children to the number now I don't want to disclose. So,
They're afraid we'll ask for money or what?
that's what I'm asking. So, do schools matter? We are questioning ourselves, and Pankaj, I do not know what came into his mind to have a self-retrospection whether we need schools or not. My question is very straight, but then before that I want to tell you, लम्हों ने खता की है, सदियों तक भुगतना है. The system itself. We are talking about many things you talk. I heard technology, science, psychology, all these things. And since we are in this bench to listen today, the audience side, and I am to ask a very relevant question. Do schools have a dimension? They are multidimensional or non-dimensional? My question is this, from all the panelists, what do they think about this? And only answer to this question, all of us we know that schools do not have any dimension. But then if you think it is dimensional, you can confine into a dimension, a child will have to learn, get education only by going to school, then many of the stories of the great people would be proved false. So I just would like to know, for my knowledge, whether schools are only the schools which we have started and we are running, or there are other schools also, and we mean every place of learning as school. Thank you very much. This is my question.
I guess what you're saying is, are we defining schools in a particular way?
Yes. That's what.
And if you're saying, are we defining schools in the brick and mortar? Yes. Are we defining schools as a place where learning happens? Yes. Or learning, teaching happens? Yes. Are we defining schools as what happens when I sit with my mom and watch her make something? Yes, but not the conversation here. We're not talking about that. I think what we have talked about is typically the more organized aspect of the teaching learning happening. Though I completely agree with you that learning does not necessarily happen within these four walls, it happens across. Yeah? But what I'm saying is that there is a lot that is happening, at least from my perspective, there is a lot that can also happen within these four walls, which possibly we have missed when we have focused on something more. So, I think in psychology we often say that our brains are we have what we call inattentional blindness. So when I don't pay attention to something, I'm equivalent to blind. And somewhere that has also happened within the school system, is what I'm saying.
You have rightly mentioned that formal schools are not the only institutions imparting knowledge. In fact, so many great minds, they were actually drop out of schools. Tagore is one example, Einstein, Edison, so many, we can just count the number of them. So all these have been educated, they have reached the height of human development. So schools per se is not necessary. So even Pankaj could have managed to reach a high stage without going to school. But anyway, he was afraid of his father, so he attended school. So that's what he had to know. So I think it's very, very important to understand. Schooling is a formal school that we are having, and there are many other ways. And learning takes place wherever learning takes place. It cannot be confined to one particular situation. And that's what I said, we need to teach children to educate themselves and to be lifelong learners. They should not stop learning the moment they have finished school. They should not stop learning the moment they have got their BA or BCom or their PhDs or whatever it is. Because life is a lifelong learning. So I think I always remember the story told by Rotarians. They say, if a hungry man comes to you, don't give him a fish, because after finishing the fish he will come back to you again. You give him a hook and teach him to fish, he will never come back to you. So I think our enterprise in the school should be that they should never come back to school to again ask, sir, I finished already this much of knowledge, now how much more, I must get something more. No, you must teach him to learn continuously. And that should be, I think, our effort.
I think in today's, at least in the present context, do schools matter? I think it is established that schools matter. So we can't do without schools. So not only that, what I feel, as an outsider I am speaking. Right, sir. Other day I had gone to a school and I asked, there about class 7 or 8. No, I didn't go to school, I went to somebody's house, the child was in school. So in some context, I asked them about the idiom, what is called Pakora Jojana in our language. And the child has not heard of it. And I told you, how come they sort of say they don't know Pakora Jojana? This is what it is not taught in school. You see, I am teaching now postgraduate students who come through a selection process when they are above average. They do not have the rudimentary basic general knowledge because those things were not taught in school. So that's what I'm saying, that the amount of things that you have to put in the students is much more. And this concept that learning has to be everywhere, the environment produces, it's not there anymore. Students are not learning anything except what they are being taught in school. Parents are not allowing them to read books. I have come across parents who don't allow the children to read books because it is going to divert. My wife was a dance teacher and she found, at class, when they have crossed class 8, when the girls have really reached a stage where they can take off, the parents take them off. After 2 years they have to matriculate, after 2 years they have to do their higher secondary, so 4 years they are cut out. And after that when they come back, they have lost the zest. So I think you have got to appreciate this also aspect. The responsibility. When we say learning, it has to be a total learning that education system has to provide. Because there is no other way the children going to learn. And from the environment, what is the child going to learn? I remember I used to do a lot of learning as a child from the newspaper. Today, is the newspaper worth reading? And if if a class 5-year student reads and says, why was Asaram Bapu, what was his main crime? What are you going to reply to him? So I think...
he did that and he was jailed. That you will learn.
No. See, I will tell you. See, today we want children's inquisitive faculty to develop. And if the student really becomes inquisitive about what is the parliament of baboons, they call it, is doing, and if they start asking those questions, I am sure you will think that the whole thing was better,
Good evening, everybody. Hearing to all the discussions, I have come to a conclusion. I do not know how many people will support me for that. Since we know that at the present context we do need schools, because as our society is at this stage, all people are not educated to the same level where they can educate their children at home. So therefore, schools are necessary for a section of the society. But we have also the section of the society, we are highly educated and they want something better than what schools are being able to give. So therefore, why don't we open schools where students have a choice as to whether they want to go to a regular school as we are having now, or they want to go to an open school where they learn on their own. So we must now think of the future, because technology is developing so fast and the children also are diverted by that advancement in technology. They are having so much interest in it. They constantly want to sit and access the internet to know more and more. That is the inquisitiveness that we see in children today. Because many children come to me asking various questions, and that is what it is working in my mind. Why don't we have an open school where we have all the technology to give them what those people who choose for it, let them go there. And those who do not, and they cannot afford, or they don't have the capacity to cope up with it, let them go to normal schools where we try to give what Sir and Madam just now spoke about, having a school which has character, which has social values, which gives the children the ability to learn and apply and continue learning. That's all that I have to say.
In the earlier days, when most children went to the same school, the doctor's kid, the postman's kid, the farmer's kid, the sweeper's kid all went to the same school, there was an automatic quality check and there was learning that was happening from each other. I think we've already segregated that. Now, the municipal schools are very different, the population that goes there is very different from that, and further segregation is only going to make it worse, because at the end of the day learning happens from each other, and learning happens, and there is a level of monitoring and supervision which is very, what should I say, not overt, but it's necessary. Everything is going well because there are people who understand it. Today, in a municipal school, often the parent has no clue about what is happening because all of them are fairly uneducated. So I think we have to rethink that as well. Maybe it is too far away, but it's a question that we need to think about. So segregation is not the way to think of it.
I just want to put a question to you. Does homeschool, if you don't believe in schools within the four walls, there are many people who talk about homeschools. Because when I went to Australia in Brisbane, I heard about the Brisbane School of Distance Learning. And most of the students I am finding that they are getting educated through the home school where they are tutored one-to-one. So do you think that that's a better way of doing things? Or is it, because they say they enjoy a lot doing it? Because if I'm not very mistaken, there's a boy from Assam who has not gone to school as such, but he's doing a wonderful work at Oxford University now, and he's also a lecturer there. He's the son of one of the environmentalists who has been working in wildlife. So I just want to know about this, because many people are losing faith in the four rooms of a classroom, and they are thinking that a homeschool should be a better one. Is it a fact?
I think it's too resource intensive. I think it is also quite wasteful. I think it takes away one of the most important things about education is to work with other people of different varieties. So diverse. So exception doesn't prove the law. There are many people who will do very well even if they are homeschooled. But I think it cannot be the only way that we can. Because honestly, it's too resource intensive. And what's the purpose of having two parents fully homeschool one child? Seems like a waste to me. I think there are many other ways to think of it.
I have many friends whose children were going through this homeschooling in the States. Later on, being with them for some time, children themselves begin to wonder or ask questions. Why are we only there? They don't feel the proximity of others, and we don't feel the sharing with others and all. And so slowly what happens is they create a small pool of homeschooling people in order to have some kind of social life, some kind of sharing. They go out for picnics together, they have learning together. One mother is good for this one, so the other children come to this mother, and like that they share. So ultimately, I do feel, as Madam said, I think it is maybe exception, but it cannot be the rule most of the time. And many of them, after a few years of homeschooling, they get into a school for some time. So it is not that they are going through the whole process by homeschooling, because how much can one parent teach a child for, so long? For earlier days it is okay, but later on when it goes to class, 10th or 11th or 12th and all, it will become a very great problem for the one parent to look after. And not only that, school provides much more than just passing exams or passing a subject. It's socialization. There is so many other things involved. So I think it's very much more required. So I think as a human society, we need to also have this school system. Some children can go through homeschooling, no problem. But at one stage they will come into some.
One thing that they all agree is that it requires tremendous amount of luxury of one parent at least not working. And in families where both the parents have to earn be engaged in some economic activity, homeschooling is something that just doesn't exist for them as an option. And again, in urban areas, and we don't have to always take extreme examples of very poor people, the entire scenario changes there. But even in urban, middle class, upper middle class communities, a lot of parents also send their children to schools because at least those 8 hours they get to do the things that they professionally, personally want to do. So there is an institution where the children are safe, they are taken care of, and side by side they are also learning, while parents get to do their own things. So there are multiple things why homeschooling is like something that has probably not caught up. In the US they say that people who are extremely religiously inclined towards a particular religion, to make sure that their kids imbibe those religious values, they go for homeschooling. So it's been used in different ways in different places. I know parents whose daughter had some hearing challenges or something, and in a regular school, she was forced upon catching up, being with the rest of the class without teacher paying any attention to her challenges, specific challenges, where the mother was compelled to take her daughter out of the school and then teach her at home. And I have seen her now growing into becoming like a graphic designer, does excellent lip reading and speaks fluent English and is now learning to speak Hindi. So there are examples of success and failure, but as an entire substitute to the schooling system, I think we are far away from getting there. I think as an option for the few privileged and exceptional cases like where there is challenge with learning abilities or specific challenges, I think it does exist as an option, although the law doesn't allow it anymore, our favorite RT. So you have to send your children to school. But, which is right to schooling, not right to learning actually. But still, I mean, that homeschooling as an option exists only for a few. Sorry.
While you were mentioning about this character building, right? So I understand about the performance character and it's been there for a while and we still stick to the guns. But this concept of moral character has been changing drastically in terms of, so very subtly you have kind of put in the conversations about what is right and wrong. So these two words have become, very slippery these days. And it comes into the context even more heavily because of the fact that this generation of young people are teaching these kids who actually have that slippery slope on right and wrong. So can you just answer in terms of how do we actually take care of it? Because I have seen many of my own, in fact, my own classmates and people who have passed out from the same institute, probably, like the new ad of Sprite, don't know is the new clarity. So, like that, there's nothing like right or wrong. You just keep doing whatever you're doing. And that somehow, I think it disturbs the whole fabric of moral character. Not even, standing on both the sides is something which people are saying that there are no two sides. So how do you actually build moral character? And that too with a generation which actually believes that there are no two sides.
I think for many things, the right and wrong definitely has shifted. What used to be right is no longer right or no longer such a clear thing. But I think there are certain things that continue to not be so easy to question. So for example, is it right for me to hurt another person? Yeah? Irrespective of what I believe. I don't think there is still that it is what is the word? It depends. I don't think it is an it depends. Yeah? I think there is a certain finality to that. Yet I think the point is not about not telling people what is right and wrong, but the ability to engage in that conversation. That's very important. To me, that is moral character. Moral character is not having a do's and don'ts. That is somebody's do's and don'ts. But I think important for me to continuously ask this question, what am I doing? And what are repercussions it has? What are the consequences? What does it mean for me? What does it mean for the other? If I have that capacity to have that reflection, conversation, dialogue, understanding, I think they are moral characters. Yeah? So it's not about, are you wearing the right clothes? Are you doing this? It's not about that. It's about, am I willing to engage in that conversation? I think so. What I'm often worried about is the blankness about it, is what I'm saying. How can we be blank to some of these issues? Because life is a relationship.
I think we need to understand this problem from another angle, and that is in the 70s, late 60s and 70s and all, psychology came out with a thinking that the ultimate is self-fulfillment. Self-fulfillment is the highest norm. And later on, they have come to understand that self-fulfillment is not the highest norm. There is interdependence. Independence is needed and interdependence. So there is a gradual growth in the person, the human maturity. That is, we become dependent first, then we become independent, then we become interdependent. And what Madam said, relationship. So in relationship, you can't hurt another and say it is okay. So earlier in the 70s, you do your thing, I do my thing, if we meet, well and good. That used to be the maxim of those generations. But today, psychology has gone far ahead and said self-fulfillment is not the goal of human maturity. It is interdependence. Without the other, you can't fulfill yourself also fully. So I think there is a change in focus. So if you understand that relationship is important, then we need to keep the other in focus also. So what do I do the other person or what he does to me, all that is very important. So there will be always something that are allowed, something that are not allowed. It may not, our moral, our religious background may be different, our other backgrounds may be different, but there will be certainly some regard what is right relationship. That relationship is important. So I think moral, that's why I did not use moral. In my talk I did not speak about moral because morality is very, it is difficult to understand what is morality. But that's why I said spiritual. Spiritual dimension of the human person must be brought out. And especially in India, this has got a very important connotation. The spiritual side of person. And I think that's what we would mean by moral. It could be spiritual.
Who all have questions? Oh wow. Okay, it's really really nice to see so many questions, but I think it's a little tough to fit them into this time limitation now. So could you please ask these questions over dinner to the panelists? All 5 of them would be there. May I actually?
My question is about a dilemma which I often confront as a principal of a school. When I think of this, my question pertains to the second part of the discussion about the school culture. So we are non-competitive, very highly collaborative atmosphere, absolutely perfect to hear, to develop. But the reality is, soon after the 10th, soon after the 12th, where are our children? 100% is the cutoff of a college. 95% is not enough for getting admission to a college. They need a certain percentage to be in your institute, ma'am. In the school too, we need to season them to face this competition that they're going to face in future in their life. If it's a very non-competitive atmosphere in school, it will be like a very protected environment, and soon after school is over, it's like we throw them in the jungle and their survival for existence starts. So what do we do in such a circumstance?
I don't actually have a question, but what an answer to the one that you asked actually. What we need to do is combine the technical aspects which we teach in school and the moral aspects which we teach in school by somebody who can groom the children in terms of what competition actually is. How do you succeed? Where do we go from here? Right? So instead of asking, do schools matter, we should ask, what kind of schools matter? That should be the correct question in this case. Who teaches the children what kind of guidance and what kind of support they get? That's the kind of the solution to the whole dilemma that we are asking right now. That's what my opinion is.
The job is to host the next conversation.
I really mean it when I say that on Sunday afternoon, spending half of your Sunday for something like this really is very remarkable. It talks very highly of the schooling community of Guwahati, I think. So how committed you all as a schooling community are. So thank you for being such wonderful audience as well for this.
If you organize on another day, there will not be so many. Everybody can spare.
See, so I mean it's really great. Thank you so much, all of you, and I think.
Thank you for being a good moderator.
Oh, that's nice.